Welcome to Tonight in America, everyone. Special tonight edition, actually, a early morning, late night edition. Is 3:32 a.m. in the morning, and we are having a live coverage of the Iran war. Finish off my coverage that I was supposed to fully finish off 2 days ago. We are going to just jump right on into it and finish covering everything right now. Hold up 1 second. Let me pull up. There we go. Pull this over here. As you can see, we have live feed right now of the Middle East right now. This is currently the Middle East right now. So I have a live feed right now for everyone right now. Go ahead, turn on some sound. So we're going to finish covering off our coverage of the Iran war. Let me turn this on solid right quick for a minute. Get you guys caught up with what we're talking about tonight. So we're talking about the Iran war. We're going to go through a couple of videos. This is Cappy Army. The Iran war is worse than you think. We're going to also speak about what was the motivation as to why the Trump administration really got into it. We're going to hear from our boy, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. We're also going to watch the press briefer that happened just the other day with PXF and General Dan Kane. We also going to talk about we also have a video from Live Now from Fox. We also are going to speak about the release of the emergency oil reserves from 32 nations who are forced right now to release their oil reserves because of this war that is going on right now that's impacting the Middle East, and has also led to the close of the Strait of Hormuz, which is 5% of the world's oil goes through. So we're also going to speak about that. As you can see right here, these are the oil prices right now. If you can't see right now, Brent crude, which is the world oil that all countries use right now, it's sitting at $103 for a barrel, currently speaking. That is insane to me. Oil prices right now are going up steadily every day. Every day oil prices are going up more and more every day. This is really bad right now, how it's looking right now. So we're going to go over that some more. We're also going to talk about Tucker Carlson here. Apparently, the CIA is forming a arrest warrant. Apparently, they are creating a reason where they're finding a reason to be able to arrest Tucker Carlson. He dropped this video really just 9 hours ago. He just dropped this video today. And as you know, we're going to go in and out of our cameras that we have in the Middle East right now. So we're going to jump between all of this right now. So let's go ahead and jump into it right now. So we're going to go over to this first video that we have today for you guys.
A new ground front in the war against the Islamic Republic of Iran just opened up. Forbes, Fox, and others are now reporting that thousands of Kurdish fighters are pouring over the borders. Not now, babe, I'm monitoring the situation. The ground offensive is reportedly pushing into Iran's western borders from Iraq. Forbes reported that CIA officers have been on a clandestine, covert mission here to arm and advise these organizations over the past year. This is why we're seeing increased activity here, I think, in this sector, where the Kurds are now being bombed by Iran. However, at the same time, some other sources are claiming that this ground operation isn't happening at all. So what's really going on here? Well, today, we're going to examine the ground war, the status of Iran's ballistic missiles, we're going to assess the regime's ability to stay in power, the air and naval campaign, as well as the big picture strategic goals for each side. Over the past year, you guys' support of the new channel has been incredible. So today, I'm giving back and I'm going to donate $10,000 to Tunnel to Towers Foundation Gold. According to reports, stated that they've already begun a military offensive against Iranian regime forces. Israeli and American strikes have specifically targeted Iranian military outposts along the Iraqi border in an attempt to clear a path for ground operations. The war is taking place in phases that are distinguished by the type of targets they're choosing. According to ISW think tank, the first phase of the campaign suppressed Iranian air defenses, and it decapitated its command and control, and it limited its ability to retaliate with ballistic missiles and drones. And now the second phase that we're entering is about knocking out the production of ballistic missiles. It's an attempt to pave a ground invasion for partner forces. You can see the hits from this unclassified map that was released by the Department of War. This is where we're seeing intense waves of airstrikes that are knocking out a bunch of the frontier Iranian guard posts and police stations all along the border, parts of Iran's border with Iraq.
gotta remember right now, everyone, like this war is being fought in a way many people are not going to understand exactly. What do I mean by that? So people right now, the U.S. and Israel are militarily winning this war. They're striking them from the air domination, from the sea, somewhat. They're dominating from missile strikes all day long. It's not even without question. You can't even argue against that right now. So it's pretty much there's no argument in that field. There's no dispute in that. But this is not a war of militarily. Not only just militarily. It's not a war about that. It is a asymmetric warfare. What I mean by that is that this war, excuse me, I get some water, that Iran has no intention of really beating the United States government and Israel in a military confrontation. No, what they're going to do is they're going to make it very difficult for the two countries right now. And how are they going to do so? Whereas you may see right now in the news that they've been attacking all the other Gulf countries in the region right now. Now, of course, they've just been striking military bases that are housed in all these countries, but there are also reports that they're also attacking, like, for instance, Saudi Arabia's oil refinery, where they use the site in order to refine their oil, so that way they're able to ship it on the ships that go through the Strait of Hormuz in order to come to the United States and all the other countries that Saudi Arabia has trade deals with. So because Iran struck the oil refinery along with other sites, along with other Gulf countries' oil sites, this is making it very hard for really not only with the Strait of Hormuz closed, and then also simultaneously attacking these sites where a lot of these oil products go to be refined to be able to be shipped on a ship that goes to the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is effectively hurting not only the U.S. but all the other countries that have trade deals along, and also interests that also go and also have interest in the Middle East right now. Iran is hurting this right now effectively by going out here and pretty much conducting warfare in an asymmetric way. So, of course, like I said before, their goal is not to beat the United States at all in a full-on military campaign. That's just dumb and stupid. I said that in the previous stream. If you didn't see that, check that out. They're not going to win this in a military confrontation at all. That is not even going to happen. So what Iran is doing right now is they're attacking military bases right now and pretty much causing millions of dollars of property damage right now that, quite frankly, we at some point have to also go back and fix. But by also simultaneously attacking these Gulf countries, they're showing the Gulf countries right now that the U.S. is not technically not protecting them at all. And they're technically defenseless because they're interceptor missiles that these countries also have in their possession besides Israel. They can't stop all the missiles that are coming in right now. And sometimes Iran will send munition missiles that also can break apart and will make it harder for interceptor missiles to intercept all the fragments that come from a munition missile. Excuse me, can't talk right now. So when that happens, you have a bunch of debris that's falling from the sky that's going to cause a lot of damage once it hits ground, and also will probably injure, hurt, kill people that are on the ground. So by the way this war is being conducted by Iran, and effectively what they're doing right now is this is actually technically a smart strategy, because they're showing the entire world that the U.S. cannot. It's like effectively only willing to really save one country. And it's not all these other Gulf countries that thought that the United States had their interest at heart and also would have their safety in mind. So these Gulf countries are suffering a lot during this war that's going on right now, currently speaking. And they're not even calling this a war. as you're about to see right now when we get to this press briefer with PXF and Dan Kane, that they're still refusing to use the talking point that this is a war, and more or less that this is just a operation that's being conducted in the Middle East, because for legal purposes they cannot call this a war. So that is basically what's really going on so far, that the U.S. and Israel are militarily winning this war, but Iran really is strategically winning this war, because they're causing major economic damage, and pretty much they're damaging not only us economically, our image is also being damaged, because they're attacking all the Gulf countries that we are supposed to be having also simultaneously protect, but we're not doing a good job of doing so, because they are running dangerously close to being out of interceptor missiles. Israel, earlier today, there was reports that Israel is about to be running out of interceptor missiles as well. Of course, they're denying it, but they have to. And they're going to deny it. All these countries right now are dangerously being close to running out interceptor missiles, and these cost billions of dollars to fucking make and to ship to the Middle East right now. Israel did not even recover from the 12-day war that happened back then in June. They didn't even recover all their interceptor missiles right now. This is the reason why they're running so low on theirs right now. So this is also another reason why we're going to talk about this later on too, as well, as why the FCC is the head of the chair of the head of the FCC, Brandon Carr, is talking about going after media outlets, because media outlets are reporting that this warfare is not going in the Trump administration's favor. So now they're going to start cracking down and start revoking the license from certain media outlets, because they're quote unquote reporting fake news, according to what the Trump administration is saying. Because Trump had today, he had a True Social post calling out news media outlets and saying that they were reporting fake news, that the war was not going in his favor at all. And some pilots were killed too as well. Let me see if I think I have that too as well. Let's check and see what's going on in the Middle East. Everything's pretty much to be good, but yeah, I have that too as well. Yep, right here. Trump's FCC chair threatens new news networks over Iran war coverage. I'll save that one for later when we're going to read it, but we're going to go over that one more in detail about what does that mean exactly. Quite frankly, it means that a lot of us, including myself, might be targeted soon, especially when it comes to us reporting the news 100% honest to you and non-biased, because quite frankly, Fox News is not going to tell you none of this stuff, because we all know what side they play for. You know, so we're going to jump right back into the video, but that's just what I want to go over right now, is that this warfare, as many people might say that militarily Iran and Israel winning, which I'm not Iran and Israel, United States and Israel winning this war, which I'm not even disputing that at all, but strategically, Iran is winning this war, because they're going to make it very difficult for gas, especially for gas prices, because gas prices are already rising. Because the fact that oil right now, currently speaking, costs like over $100 for a barrel, it's going to be insane. It's going to be insane, like in these next couple of weeks, because these prices are only going to just go up. And the fact that we can't get any of these ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz, because this war is going on right now, and Iran is already threatened right now that if any ship goes through the Strait of Hormuz, they will bomb them, or are at risk of running over a planted mine by the Iranian regime. So that's the story so far right now, but we're going to cover all of that today and then some. But let's jump back into the video right now.
should say. President Trump said that he is currently choosing those targets to clear a path for them, because throughout history, there are very few examples of successful regime change operations without some kind of boots on the ground, whether it's partner forces or not. According to Kurdish officials, they began taking combat positions inside Iranian territory as early as Monday, March 2nd. Reports on the ground stated that Iranian forces had evacuated the border city of Marwan and are setting up defensive positions nearby. The Kurdish commander said thousands of their fighters are already deployed deep inside Iran's Zagros mountain range. It's very, very difficult terrain to fight in. These Kurdish armed factions are prepared to cooperate with U.S. and Israeli officials, they said. Now, multiple sources are now reporting that Mossad operatives are also launching attacks from deep inside Iranian soil as part of surgical, covert ground operations. Israeli commander Major General Tom Barr revealed hints about this, saying, quote, fighters from the Air Force special units are currently carrying out extraordinary missions that could only ignite the imagination. According to one former Mossad official who spoke to The Guardian, a series of short-range munitions that were launched against the IRGC along the outposts on the border in recent days bore these hallmark distinguishing factors of Israeli intelligence missions. This episode's sponsor is Rare Breed. We partnered with them to make the $10,000 donation and for making today's rundown possible. If you look at where the on without a large tank force, I've seen other estimates that say that their strength is in 200,000 fighters, but I don't know if that's an accurate force strength assessment. Oh, and speak of the devil, we see this new geolocated footage shows Humvees being transported to near Iran's border to support the Kurdish fighters. Now, I think their role would be to open up another insurgent front, not necessarily a conventional war campaign. Now, the concern here is that oftentimes when a ground faction is involved in overthrowing a regime, like when Gaddafi was overthrown in Libya.
Yeah, so like the United States plan, where one of their plans were, besides trying to cause an uprising between the Iranian people, one of their plans now is to use this small ethnic group that resides in Iran called the Kurds. The Kurds are, I mean, I'm not trying to be harsh when I say this criticism of them. They're like mentally deformed ethnic group that are like kind of like retarded. Like the Kurds are effectively, they're reprehensible about trying to overthrow the Iranian regime, because the reason why they're reprehensible is because they, for the most part, they don't believe that the United States is going to have their back in this at all, because it's happened before. The Kurds have tried to overthrow Iran before, and that didn't go the way, and the United States did not have their back at all at that time too as well. So now they're worried about, now if they try to do this again, even with the backing of the Trump administration and the full weight of the United States military complex, it was not, they still would not succeed in overthrowing them. And the IRGC has already made it well known, if the Kurds did try to overthrow them, they would be met with force immediately. So it's just like the Kurds are very much not like trying to jump trying to jump ahead and try to pretty much jump at the mouth of trying to really go at and trying to cause a regime change and trying to cause an uprising, because even them themselves have come to realize, even though as stupid as the Kurds are, they realize that this is just not a win scenario for them, because they don't even believe the Trump administration really has their back. Because even if they do and say if they get caught or they fail or whatever, the Trump administration is not going to come bail them out. So the Kurds are not at all really, they're really not going to do anything, quite frankly. Like, they've already made it clear that they're too scared to really do anything, because they feel like they're just going to be left on an island by themselves.
Yeah, it can spiral into chaos and into civil war. However, it appears that Israel and the United States would prefer that outcome of a chaotic outcome to the Islamic Republic of Iran staying in power. The U.S. has worked with these Kurdish groups since before the 2003 invasion of Iraq. It's become a long-running meme, in fact, at this point, about how the U.S. often abandons their Kurdish allies, like in Syria and in Iraq, after encouraging them to help and to fight them. And then at the last minute, they kind of just disappear. So we'll have to keep an eye on if that happens again. Iran's ballistic missile fire in the past day has slowed down to a crawl. This is the big, huge news here, because according to the Pentagon, joint strikes have been able to decrease Iran's ballistic missile fire by about 90%. Most of that happened in just the last day. Iran's one-way attack drones have decreased by 73% from the opening days. Take a look at these estimates here. It shows it much better. All types of munitions are down and degraded across the board, while munitions fired by the U.S. and Israel are only increasing. Here it is on a graph that shows it better again.
Yeah, that's actually not true. So when it comes to Iran's ballistic missiles program and all their other weaponry or whatever, they have a manufacturing drone they have all their entire manufacturing facilities, whether that be the drones or whether that be the missiles, is buried underneath grounds. And the thing about it is, it costs more money to make the missiles, the cruise missiles, the drones that we make, compared to their IRGs, compared to the Iranian government, because they make all their stuff in house. It doesn't cost them as much money as it costs for them to make their weaponry compared to, say, the U.S. Most of our stuff we do make in the U.S. for the most part, but it costs far more money to be able to make. Whereas the Iranian government, they're in their underground facilities, manufacturing this stuff at far less cost compared to us spending billions and billions of dollars on these missiles right now that we have, these weaponries, and the repairs that we have to also keep in mind to all the aircraft carriers that are also in the Middle East that are also suffering a lot of damage right now, currently speaking, that many Western medias have also reported on, because they've had to pretty much sail to the Middle East without having to stop and really get certain issues fixed up, pretty much. Like, you know about the Abraham Lincoln, the USS Abraham Lincoln. It has toilet issues for the most part. It has it has toilet issues to where toilets are not working properly or whatever, because they had to sail all the way from all around. So I think they was in South America. They had to sail all the way from South America to the Middle East, and they couldn't stop at all to really refill, get everything tidied up or whatever. They just had to constantly go all the way from South America to the Middle East because the inevitable strike on Iran was already set in motion. Like I said, when we get to Marco Rubio, you guys are gonna know exactly when this was all set in motion and why was it set in motion in the first place. But to reiterate a point right now, that Iran is running out of their ballistic missiles or drones or whatever. That comes from like majority of like Western media, preferably like from Fox News or something like that. That's not true, because like at the same time, if you look at it like how Iran's weaponries, how they manufacture all their weapons, they do it themselves and they do it in house, and it doesn't cost them far more money than it does for us to remake our weapons. It costs far more to make, for instance, interceptor missiles. It costs billions of dollars to make these interceptor missiles. Not only that, when you got to factor in how much money does it cost, you have to also factor into the point we have to get it to the Middle East in the middle of a battle. Israel's dangerously close to being low on interceptor missiles and possibly about to be out of it. So this warfare that's going on right now, currently speaking, is costing them so many interceptor missiles right now. And you also know who else is also going to be cost? Who else is going to cost when it comes to the interceptor missiles? The U.S. Because we have to refuel them up with interceptor missiles. And you know what that means, right? That means that they have to take X amount of money, which is close to billions of dollars, to remake all these interceptor missiles. And it takes time to be able to manufacture all these interceptor missiles. But for Iran, it doesn't take that much. It takes far less time to remake some more missiles, and also the ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, you name it, whichever one. And also their massive drone facility that they also house and they make themselves. So keep in mind.
Is this a purposeful strategy on the IRGC and Iran's part to slow fire, to protract the war? Possibly. Are they holding back and saving missiles? It's unlikely. Evidence that this is happening, this slowdown, is because of 400 ballistic missile mobile launch trucks that have been destroyed in the past 5 days. Just like how every single piece of military equipment...
You don't think they could really make more? I mean, I'm just going to keep it real. They could literally just make more. I mean, they've already made, you don't think that they could, like, literally on their ground, in their underground facilities, that they have already far more in their arsenal? Come on, man. This is just kind of like, it's just lousiness.
that is destroyed in the war in Ukraine is tracked, monitored, tagged, and categorized. The same is true in this conflict. Estimates from Israeli officials are that 50% of them have been destroyed so far, and this footage shows why that's the case. There's nowhere to hide. Even equipment in overhead hangars gets destroyed now. This has been the U.S. military's greatest success in the campaign so far. It's like a high-stakes game of rock, paper, scissors. The U.S. is deploying paper with air power to cover everything, and Iran is throwing down rock to try to smash everything with ballistic missiles. I forget which one of those went. Meanwhile, Iran's greatest success so far has been the regime's ability to stay in power, which has surprised the United States. At first, people thought Russia and China weren't coming to the defense of Iran, but now it appears like they might be stepping in. Russia is sending satellite targeting information to Iran, sending them all the location of U.S. warships and equipment in the region, just like the U.S. has been doing, sending targeting data to Ukrainian troops against Russia for the past few years. And China is now apparently mulling over deciding if they're going to send additional ballistic missile parts. Now let's take a look at the big picture. Let's zoom out here.
Well, China and Russia are doing one thing. They're assisting Iran with intelligence. So they're basically assisting them with intelligence or whatever. They're not assisting them with any weaponry or anything like that of the sorts as of yet. But they are helping them out with massive amounts of intelligence. That quite frankly is helping them in the war right now. Like their strikes right now. Let me check and see. Do we have any updates on here? Do you have any updates from any bombs? Well, we have no updates right now on that, but China and Russia are helping in the fact that they are assisting with like intelligence. So that pretty much helps them out in more than you might think, honestly speaking. That's also plays a part into why Benjamin Netanyahu hasn't really been seen at all. And most of the videos that you've seen of Bibi Netanyahu was one recent video that apparently is AI. So get this, there's a recent video of Bibi giving a address to the people of Israel, and apparently in the video he has 6 fingers, and it's been alleged that that's an AI video of him. So people are speculating that Bibi's most likely dead or he's in hiding. I don't think he's dead. I just think he's in hiding. And it's in due part because like China and Russia are providing Iran with intelligence. So if that's the case, that they're providing them with intelligence, it makes sense why Bibi is hiding and why no one has seen Benjamin Netanyahu. So that's one thing where China and Russia are doing. They're not going to really get militarily involved. I don't foresee them getting militarily involved. Like I said, Russia still has its hands full with Ukraine. China, at some point, is probably going to make a move on Taiwan, especially with all this is going on right now in the Middle East. And we are taking THAAD missiles out of South Korea, which is put there in order to basically keep watch of when China decides to make their move on, say, Taiwan. So that's that. So, like I said, to re-go my point, China and Russia are not going to get militarily involved, but they are going to provide intelligence probably for the foreseeable future, depending on how this war goes and how long it's going to go, because this is like a war of nutrition. So if this is a war of nutrition, that means long-term interceptor missiles are going to run out, and Iran is going to start pretty much going to start bombarding Israel with missiles after missiles after missiles, whether it be ballistic, hypersonic, supersonic, it doesn't really matter. And drones too as well, because like the fact that they're using like missiles, munition missiles, it's a way to be able to deplete their interceptors at a faster rate. The more that they use munition missiles, the faster that their interceptors run out. The faster the interceptors run out, the easier it is for missiles to start flying in Israel. Right now, I'm starting to see videos right now. More videos of destruction going on in Israel right now, currently speaking.
because this war is a race. I think the IRGC in Iran is racing to turn the war into a global economic catastrophe, right? Iran's most important weapon is the global oil market. They cannot hope to shoot down all the American Israeli jets. They cannot hope to sink all the US warships. What they can hope to do from Iran's perspective is create a massive oil shock. This is Iran's biggest leverage, to force the Gulf countries to pressure the United States and Israel to stop the war. Currently, tanker traffic is down 90% in the Strait of Hormuz, and this is where 35% of the fertilizer needed for global food production goes through. This strategy explains clearly why you're seeing Iran now target 13 of the countries in the region that haven't even targeted them. It's why they're hitting the civilian airports. It's why Iran's targeting luxury hotels. It's why they're hitting oil infrastructure. It's why they're targeting commercial vessels and data centers, because they can't hope to win militarily. So instead, their strategy is to try to win by causing economic chaos.
Boom. What I just said earlier.
The risk to this strategy, though, the downside to this strategy for the IRGC is it gets the whole region to align against Iran because they're getting hit by them with missiles. On the other side, America.
And also it does, well, that's one way to look at it. But like I said earlier, it is also another reason to also look at this, that the U.S. is not protecting these other Gulf countries, and not to the same degree that they're protecting Israel. So it's going to be a bad look for the United States going forth.
Is racing to dismantle Iran's ballistic missiles and their navy fast enough to prevent any kind of sustained, protracted disruption to the oil market. We'll know who won this race in about 2 or 3 months from now if the oil market is still extremely high and the Strait of Hormuz is still unpassable.
It's definitely going to be.
Well, that would be no bueno. I think evidence of this strategy by Iran is that we see here. The majority of missiles fired by Iran were at the UAE, not Israel or U.S. military targets.
Again, also another point to point out why they're also attacking these other Gulf countries, because the fact that these Gulf countries align themselves with us in Israel, of course. That is also another reason why they're going after these Gulf countries, because like it doesn't make sense on paper for Muslim countries to go and fight amongst each other, because the greater threat is actually is that apartheid state. But the reason why they're doing is because like they have affiliation with Israel and the United States. So that's the reason why Iran is going after them.
Why? Because Dubai is the largest trade hub in the Middle East. Jebel Ali Airport is one of the busiest ports on Earth, and Dubai International Airport is the world's busiest. So Iranian strikes are designed to cause insurance spikes and inflict the maximum amount of damage in terms of global trade disruption. This is Iran's strategy, raising the cost of war and trying to spread instability across the region, as we'll see. When we zoom out and we look at all around Iran's other borders, though, it's becoming also more chaotic. Azerbaijan called up military forces to their border with Iran. The war has further widened and escalated. Iran fired one-way attack munitions into Azerbaijan. Video evidence and footage was released of the attack. It was recorded by people on the ground. So why is Iran attacking Azerbaijan? It could be to create chaos. It could be to hit regional oil pipelines that reach all the way into Israel. That would cause economic fallout. Or it could be a rogue unit in Iran making up their own orders because Iran's leadership is in absolute shambles right now and they're not taking orders from anyone at the top. Or it could be an accident. There are also reports of U.S. forces intercepting a ballistic missile that was headed into Turkish airspace or was already over Turkish airspace. Now, Iran's armed forces denied responsibility for these attacks, which so far is a first in this conflict. They blamed Israel for the attack, though, which is not a first in the conflict. Another front also opened up where separatist groups inside Pakistan are now fighting on Iran's southeast border. The way America and Israeli Air Force blew up the ballistic missiles is a fascinating part of the air campaign, though. It's through a new type of warfare that has never been put into wide-scale action before. It's the new sensor shooter model. There are many networked warfare graphs out there that were just theory before this war that are actually now being put into practice. Look at all these. We thought these were just wishful thinking, but fire is now distributed across the entire shared network. What all those buzzwords mean is that satellites overhead instantly identify the location of ballistic missile launch sites by Iran. They detect them from its extremely high heat signature. Those coordinates are then passed instantly to the entire fighter fleet, the whole network of 400 combat aircraft. The closest F-35 is then tasked with shooting a launcher, fires off an air-to-ground missile, destroying it without ever having to even see or detect it. Then the F-35 detects another launcher and passes that targeting data to another friendly aircraft or naval assets with Tomahawk cruise missiles. That's just wild to see in practice after it being theory for so long. Here we see new footage of American B-52 bombers taking off to conduct missions over Iran, but these are armed with long-range standoff missiles, which Tyler Rodgeway from the war zone suggested that means that America doesn't have full air supremacy yet. According to General Dan Kane, America has hit over 2,000 targets inside of Iran and has gained localized air superiority across the southern flank of Iran, and that they're now starting.
This won't really do anything because like I said before, yes, they are dominating militarily and from the air, of course, even though I technically kind of could disagree. I say they are dominating from the air. The key point to realize that majority of their missile production and drone production is underground. Even the B-2 bombers can't really get down there either. In order for this to really 100% be in order for this mission to be 100% complete to where they're able to destroy these missile production and drone productions, it would actually have to result with boots on the ground. But that's unpopular. That's really an unpopular position, because the American people are not going to vote for that. They're not going to go for that. You know, the midterms are already in shambles right now. I mean, the Republican Party is already going to lose the midterms for sure. But looking at this right now, in order for this operation to really be completed in the way the Trump administration wants it to be, you would have to actually have boots on the ground, because the missile productions and drone productions facilities that's buried on the ground, it's buried so deep on the ground that it's so hard for even the B-2 bombers to be able to do anything. They've used the B-2 bombers like at least about what? How many times during this war so far? Like 4 times now, and they still can't do nothing to the underground facilities. They're still producing missiles. They're still producing drones. There's nothing that can be done because of how far they're buried on the ground. So, in order for this to truly be completed, they're gonna have to probably put boots on the ground, which they've been talking about it. Hell, they won't even give the media straight answers about if they're going to even go with that option at all yet. Now, there are special forces that are being deployed to the Middle East, but they're for like, basically for like rescue types, pretty much for like that. They're not really going out there for like any combat reasons yet. And the amount of units they're sending to the Middle East, it's not enough for like a boots on the ground type of situation. So
to slowly chip away and expand inland, striking progressively deeper. Because Reaper drones overhead are creating what you could think of as like a 24/7 CCTV surveillance feed, real-time surveillance of whenever Iran tries to launch a missile, or as the official White House account put it, a Call of Duty call streak is called in. When we look at launching from underground silos, it takes far longer to fire those type of missiles. U.S. forces, the type of silos that we have here in America, I believe it takes about 24 hours to reload one of those underground missile silos and fire another volley. The rate of fire for mobile launchers is much faster, so from firing these protected sites, it's much slower. But troops continue to face a determined and dangerous enemy inside of Iran anyway. For Iran's part, they've inflicted some serious significant damage as well. Confirmed damage to U.S. military equipment are a few radar stations, including the ANS FPS-132, we believe, which is a strategic level asset worth billions of dollars. These are the systems that are responsible for tracking incoming ballistic missiles, and they've been hit. The IRGC in Iran is trying to disrupt the U.S. military's ability to communicate and coordinate. ISW reported that the strikes damaged several buildings, including aircraft shelters and equipment warehouses in Kuwait. Open source intel on X said, quote, satellite images show Iranian attacks on U.S. Ali al-Salim Air Base in Kuwait impacted over 20 hits. A Patriot air defense system, hangars, radars, launchers, and other military buildings were likely hit. On March 5th, ballistic missiles were still hitting American military bases in Bahrain and around the Gulf. Iran is accomplishing the most damage with its hitting of soft targets, though, civilian assets, like oil tankers. If you just look at the maritime traffic platform.
yes, of course. Like I said mentioned before, like they're going to make this economically an economic nightmare for the U.S., the West countries, and honestly Asia too as well. Asia's going to be suffering too as well from this because of China's interest in the Middle East too as well. So they're going to make this a complete economic nightmare for really the entire world.
Here, around 200 oil tankers remained at anchor in open waters. What is more clear is that what is happening at sea, though, because a U.S. Navy attack submarine attacked an Iranian.
All right, so let's move on right quick. So now that's that. Now we pretty much understand exactly how this warfare is being conducted. Like militarily wise, the United States and Israel dominated, but asymmetrically, strategically, Iran is winning this war because they're going to make it an economic nightmare for really the entire world. You know, you look at Asia, the Americans, Africa. It doesn't really matter anywhere you look in the world right now. With the Strait of Hormuz closed and oil refineries and tankers being bombed by Iran, and their refusal to allow anyone to go to the Strait of Hormuz right now unless they are prepared to be bombarded with drones. This is just not going to go in the way of the United States government, even so much so that Trump doesn't really know how he can really go about this, because like now he's calling on other countries to join in to go and open the Strait of Hormuz. And other countries are reprehensible. Now, allegedly, he has said he has not named these countries at hand, that some world leaders have agreed with him to send warships with him with a U.S. warship to go and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Now, we don't know who these world leaders are yet because Trump refuses to say so. That was reported today from NBC News. that was reported earlier, and Trump didn't really give any names right now at all who are these world leaders that agree with him and would send warships with the U.S. warship to go reopen the strait. But he has said that these leaders agree with him. They are willing to send warships, and he's calling other countries too, like China, South Korea, Japan, for instance, to send some of their warships to agree to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So we're going to keep watching that right now to see how that story develops right now over time. But let's go ahead and jump into this right here from Marco Rubio. So Rubio had a little press conference. This happened like 10 days ago, where he basically alluded to the fact that the U.S. had knowledge that Israel was going to attack Iran, and instead of just telling them to play ball, of course, they just said, we're just going to just go along with the operation and also simultaneously attack Iran too, basically.
Attack drones that they also have. They've been doing this for a very long time, and by the way, they've been doing it under sanction. You see the attacks they're conducting right now? They're attacking airports, they're attacking hotels, they're hitting not just military bases, they're attacking our embassies directly, they're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military, and that's a weakened Iran. That's in Iran despite years of sanction. Imagine a year from now, or a year and a half from now, the capabilities they would have to inflict damage on us. It's an unacceptable risk, especially in the hands of a regime that's run by radical clerics. The Ayatollah was a radical cleric. That entire regime is led by radical clerics who don't make geopolitical decisions. They make.
Let's go back from the beginning right quick.
I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bear to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces, and we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act. Going back to the purpose. The purpose of this is to destroy that missile capability. Why does Iran...
So, as you heard right there, Israel already had the intentions that they were going to strike, because they apparently had a report that said that Iran was going to attack them first, but the rhetoric from Iran was, we were not going to attack you. And this obviously there's no credit to this. There's no credit to this point right here. There's no credits to this point. So we don't have any further details about this at all. If this was the case at all, we just have hearsay pretty much from the Secretary of State and some Israeli officials, of course, that said so, but they have not provided the intelligence to back up their claims. So they just attack because they thought the Iranian regime was going to attack them, and they have yet to provide the intelligence reports at all to back up these claims, or, just give us anything of any credence to show us that this was the case, that the Iranian regime was going to attack us first. So out of safety reasons, or, basically this is kind of like how, that cliche saying that Israel has a right to defend itself. So because Iran didn't attack us at all, we have a right to defend ourselves preemptively, even if we don't necessarily have the information that they were going to attack us first at all. We just say they were going to attack us first, and we just attack them. That's just what I'm getting from this, because there's no credence to this claim right now at all. They have not provided us the intelligence to back this up, quite frankly. They're just saying this. So that's all that I took away from this right now. But we're going to keep listening right now.
Want that ballistic missile capability. What they are trying to do, and have been trying to do for a very long time, is build a conventional weapons capability as a shield where they can hide behind. Meaning, there would come a point where they have so many conventional missiles, so many drones, and can inflict so much damage that no one can do anything about their nuclear program. That is what they were trying to do, is put themselves in a place of immunity where the damage they can inflict on the region would be so high that no one can do anything about their nuclear program or their nuclear ambitions. They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have. They've been doing this for a very long time, and by the way, they've been doing it under sanction. You see the attacks they're conducting right now? They're attacking airports, they're attacking hotels, they're hitting not just military bases, they're attacking our embassies directly, they're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military, and that's a weakened Iran. That's in Iran despite years of sanction. Imagine a year from now, or a year and a half from now, the capabilities they would have to inflict damage on us. It's an unacceptable risk, especially in the hands of a regime that's run by radical clerics. The Ayatollah was a radical cleric. That entire regime is led by radical clerics who don't make geopolitical decisions. They make decisions on the basis of theology, their view of theology, which is an apocalyptic one. That has to be taken very seriously as well. So that was the purpose for what this operation is all about. That's what it's focused on. As the president said earlier today, it is on or ahead of schedule. I will defer to the Department of War to discuss the progress being made at a tactical level, but it was the right decision and an important decision for the safety and security of the world.
Does Congress have to weigh in? Is the president declaring war?
No.
It is a war already. I don't know why they keep asking that
threat. And
question.
the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow.
All right, so let's listen to that part again right quick. So let's just listen to what he's asked this question again. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let this part play out in full so you guys can listen to it in full, what he's about to say.
And did you tell lawmakers under
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen, and we didn't act preemptively to
So let me get this straight. You knew Israel was going to attack them, and then you guys would say, you know what, we're going to attack them too because we know that they're going to probably go back and attack us too as well right after the fact. Let's just look into it one more time.
Does Congress have to weigh in? Is the president declaring war?
No.
And did you tell lawmakers under
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us.
Got it. So they knew they were going to attack. They knew Israel was going to attack. And then instead of just trying to calm down the dogs, you said, you know what? We know they were going to, we know you're going to attack them, but we also know they're going to attack us back. So we might as well just attack them too as well. That's the logic right there. That's what you took away from this right now. So the imminent threat, there was no imminent threat. We just know that if Israel attacks them, the best course of action is to attack them too. That's the best course of action. So we start a regional war right now that is going to cost the world. Right now, it is going to cost the world economically very harshly right now. It's going to cause global recession right now, especially with the Strait of Hormuz closed and these oil refineries are being targeted right now because of missiles. These tankers are also being fired upon. The imminent threat was that we know because Israel was going to attack them instead of calling off the dog, we just, said, you know what, we're going to stick the dog on them and then we're also going to go after them too. That was the imminent threat. Wow. That's crazy.
And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen, and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
That's crazy.
Because of an impending Israeli action? No, first of all, let me two things I would say. Number one is, no matter what, ultimately this operation needed to happen. That's the question of why now. But this operation needed to happen because Iran in about a year or a year and a half would cross the line of immunity, meaning they would have so many short-range missiles, so many drones, that no one could do anything about it because they could hold a...
The rhetoric was originally about Iran's nuclear capabilities and about them building a bomb. Now it's changed to the missile. Now it's changed into their missile productions program. So The rhetoric is it seems to always the goalpost seems to always being moved. So it goes from being about the nuclear program originally. Now we're talking about their massive missile productions program. So basically, they are trying to put Iran in the Libya situation right now. Well, they want to put Iran in the Libya situation, pretty much. That's basically what you could take away from this.
Whole world hostage. Look at the damage they're doing now. And this is a weakened Iran. Imagine a year from now. So that had to happen. Obviously, we were aware of Israeli intentions and understood what that would mean for us, and we had to be prepared to act as a result of it. But this had to happen no matter what.
So he knew, like I said before, he literally just admitted it right there. They knew the Israeli intentions. Instead of calling off the dog, they just said, you know what, we're going to attack too. That's basically what this whole press conference basically admitted. And also the key point to realize, he had to back these comments too as well. We're going to look at that in a minute.
President Trump said overnight that his top choices to now run with Iran were killed in strikes. So the United States have a firm plan.
So we're going to jump over to that right now. This was Rubio. This was a day after that press conference where he had to literally backtrack his words from what he said originally.
We needed to get involved. Today, the president said that
No.
Iran was going to get.
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I
Okay.
Wait a minute.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. No, were you the one that, because somebody asked me a question yesterday, did we go in because of Israel? And I said, you were asking me that, you from that follow-up, and I said, no. I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision, and the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program, that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks. That decision had been made. The president systematically made a decision to systematically destroy this terroristic capability that they had, and we carried that out. I was very clear in that answer. This was a question of timing, of why this had to happen as a joint operation, not the question of the intent.
Sounds like to me, you did it because Israel was going to attack. That was the problem. So, let's see. So let's get into reading some of these articles right quick. So America braces for oil shock as Iran war throttles supplies. About 8,000 miles from the Middle East, where U.S. forces massed it over the past month to prepare for war, Heather Griffin has been joining a string of rising numbers into a notebook. The trucker catalogs diesel prices each time she fuels up the roughly 500-mile round trip she makes 6 nights a week, hauling motor dorm rooms from outside Los Angeles to California. Technic State University, a more than $1 a gallon run up since January shelves about 5% off her earnings for most journeys. Now we're going to eat a lot of it, Griffith said. She would have asked for better rates had she known about the impending geopolitical turmoil. So this is a story about what's already going on right now in America right now with the gas prices, and that where people are going to be affected by these prices day by day. So let's jump into this one. The U.S. races to accomplish Iran mission before munitions run out. So I wanted to bring a highlight to this one. This was posted March 1st, 2026, but this still holds up to this day. So Trump says the Iran campaign might last a week or longer, but dwindling stockpiles could limit his options. When the U.S. military's top general laid out the risk to Trump of launching a major and extended attack on Iran, one of the issues he flagged was America's stockpile of munitions. Now that is being put to the test. As the U.S. races to destroy Iran's missile and drone force before it runs out of interceptors to fend off Tehran's retaliation, current and former officials and analysts say the precise size of the U.S. stock of air defense interceptors, what the Pentagon calls magazine depth, is classified. But repeated conflicts with Iran and its proxies in the Middle East have been eaten into the supply of air defenses in the region. Since Saturday morning, Tehran time, the U.S. and its allies in the region have pounded an array of leadership and military targets in the country, including Iran's missile launchers, drones, and airfields. One reason the U.S. and Israel struck first, a senior official said Saturday, was to blunt Iran's ability to retaliate with its missiles and drones. It isn't yet clear how long the strikes will need to last. The heavy and pinpoint bombing, however, will continue uninterrupted throughout the week or as long as necessary to achieve our objective of peace through the Middle East and indeed the world. Trump posted on social media on Saturday. Iran's retaliation on Saturday has been more ragged than in the 12-day war when it fired more than 500 missiles and many more attack drones. Ragged, I said. Iran's announcement that Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in an airstrike could also hasten an end to the conflict, though it is far from clear who might succeed him. Obviously, that was his son. So let's go on to this report right here from the Washington Post. Russia is providing Iran intelligence to target U.S. forces, officials say. That's what I mentioned earlier. The targeting information has included locations of American warships and aircraft in the Middle East, officials said. Russia is providing Iran with targeted information to attack American forces in the Middle East, the first indication that another major U.S. adversary is participating, even indirectly, in the war, according to 3 officials familiar with the intelligence. And funny enough, Trump has pretty much lifted some sanction. He has given some sanction relief to Russia so that some countries are able to buy Russian oil. In the meantime, until this war or this operation is pretty much finished. And even when it's finished, there's no guarantee that everything's going to be the same in the Middle East right now. Quite frankly, this entire war has changed how diplomacy and how the Middle East is going to look at the U.S. and pretty much look at Israel and look at everything going forth right now. Because this war right now, far different than the 12-day war, this one has major ramifications right now that we're going to be feeling economically and probably geopolitically. The assistant, which has been previously reported, signals that repeatedly expanding conflict now features one of America's chief nuclear-armed competitors with intelligence capabilities. Since the war began Saturday, Russia has passed Iran the locations of U.S. military assets, including warships and aircraft, said the 3 officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity because of the matter's sensitivity, like I mentioned earlier. So, key point to realize, Russia and China are providing Iran with intelligence right now to assist them right now in this war. This is why they are able to target certain military targets and intelligence offices in Israel. It's because they have the assistance of the Chinese and the Russians. It works in their favor too, because they're also able to target specific targets that they are looking to target easier. Now let's look at the Middle East right now, see what's going on. If we have any updates. Kuwait City, Lebanon, southern Lebanon. It looked like camera 7 shaking a little bit. But we're gonna come back to that later. Let's see what else we're gonna cover. I think we could probably start. Let's start the press briefing.
Good morning. I'll start, as we often do here at the Department of War, with the bottom line up front. For the world to hear, and the press to actually admit, that the United States is decimating the radical Iranian regime's military in a way the world has never seen before. Never before has a modern, capable military, which Iran used to have, been so quickly destroyed and made combat ineffective, devastated. We said it would not be a fair fight, and it has not been. As I stated during our first press conference on day 2, that was 10 short days ago, the combination of the world's 2 most powerful air forces is unprecedented and unbeatable. Between our air force and that of the Israelis, over 15,000 enemy targets have been struck. That's well over 1,000 a day. No other combination of countries in the world can do that. So today, as we speak, we fly over the top of Iran and Tehran. Fighters and bombers all day, picking targets as they choose. As our intelligence gets better and better and more refined. Looking up, the IRGC and Iranian regime sees only 2 things on the side of aircraft: the Stars and Stripes and the Star of David. The evil regime's worst nightmare. Iran has no air defenses. Iran has no air force. Iran has no navy.
They've never really bragged about having either. They don't really have a good navy, nor do they have a great air force. Like, what they're known for is their missiles program and their drones. That's really what Iran's known for, and their ground force too as well. Many people sleep on the ground force. The ground force is on the radio, but that's because they understand their mountainous area better than most. Because like even back then during the Iran-Iraq war, when Iraq invaded Iran, they were able to fend off the invaders pretty well, because they understand that mountainous area better than their own enemies.
Missiles, their missile launchers and drones being destroyed or shot out of the sky. Their missile volume is down 90%. Their one-way attack drones yesterday, down 95%. And as the world is seeing, they are exercising sheer desperation in the Straits of Hormuz. Something we're dealing with. We have been dealing with it, and don't need to worry about it. We're on plan to defeat, destroy, disable all of their meaningful military capabilities at a pace the world has never seen before. But it's not just that Iran doesn't have a functioning air force, or that their entire navy is at the bottom of the Persian Gulf, or their missile force is shrinking daily. Even more importantly, they also don't have the ability to build more. That's the most important component I'd like to emphasize today. Soon and very soon, all of Iran's defense companies will be destroyed. For example, as of 2 days ago, Iran's entire ballistic missile production capacity, every company that builds every component of those missiles, has been functionally defeated, destroyed. Buildings, complexes, and factory lines all across Iran destroyed. So we're shooting down and destroying what missiles they still have in stock, but more importantly, ensuring that they have no ability to make more. Their production lines, their military plants, their defense innovation centers, defeated. Iran's leadership is in no better shape. Desperate and hiding, they've gone underground, cowering. That's what rats do. We know the new so-called not-so-supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured. He put out a statement yesterday, a weak one, actually, but there was no voice and there was no video. It was a written statement. He called for unity. Apparently killing tens of thousands of protesters is his kind of unity. Iran has plenty of cameras and plenty of voice recorders. Why a written statement? I think you know why. His father, dead. He's scared, he's injured, he's on the run, and he lacks legitimacy. It's a mess for them. Who's in charge? Iran.
You see, this is just it is boastful from PXF. It's just boastful rhetoric, because they're trying to get the new supreme leader of Iran to come out of hiding, so that way they have an easier job of figuring out where he's at. Because when it came to Ali Khamenei, Mojtaba Khamenei, who's the new supreme leader of Iran right now, they made it easier to find where his father was, because his father was at his compound and he was above ground instead of below ground, because apparently the compound that where his father was housed at had an underground facility that really would have ensured that he would have been safety if he was on the ground instead of above ground when those strikes took place, when those assassination strikes took place, excuse me, when it took place and destroyed the upper ground level of the facility and ultimately killed him. So, but to go back on this part right here, the main part that Hexef is just talking boastfulness because they want to pretty much like stoke the new supreme leader's pride and try to get him to come out of hiding anywhere to give a public statement. But also the U.S. and Israeli intelligence want to ensure where he is actually at so they get a good lock on him, and then they can probably, take him out like they took out his father.
May not even know. With every passing hour, we know, and we know they know, that the military capabilities of their evil regime are crumbling. They can barely communicate, let alone coordinate. They're confused, and we know it. Our response? We will keep pressing. We will keep pushing, keep advancing. No quarter, no mercy for our enemies. Yet some in this crew, in the press, just can't stop. Allow me to make a few suggestions. People look up at the TV and they see banners, they see headlines. I used to be in that business, and I know that everything is written intentionally. For example, a banner or a headline, Mideast war intensifies, splashing on the screen the last couple of days, alongside visuals of civilian or energy targets that Iran has hit, because that's what they do. What should the banner read instead? How about Iran increasingly desperate? Because they are. They know it, and so do you, if it can be admitted. Or more fake news from CNN. Reports that the Trump administration underestimated the Iran war's impact on the Strait of Hormuz. Patently ridiculous, of course. For decades, Iran has threatened shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. This is always what they do, hold the strait hostage. CNN doesn't think we thought of that. It's a fundamentally unserious report. The sooner David Ellison takes over that network, the better. Another example of a fake headline that I saw yesterday, war widening. Here's a real headline for you for an actual patriotic press. How about Iran shrinking, going underground? You see, Iran's leaders are hiding in bunkers and moving into civilian areas. The only thing that is widening is our advantage. Not to mention our Gulf partners stepping up even more, now going on the offense, and have always been with us on the defense with collective and integrated air defenses. Our will, it is unshakable. Our options, maximized, and our capabilities still building. We're going up, they're going down. As I said from the start, President Trump holds the cards. He'll determine the pace, the tempo, and the timing of this conflict. His hand firmly on the wheel, as well as on the throttle setting. America first, peace through strength, in action. From day one, as our nation expects and the president demands, our warriors have fought with lethality, precision, and rapid innovation. In fact, today will be, yet again, the highest volume of strikes that America has put over the skies of Iran and Tehran. The number of sorties and number of bomber pulses, the highest yet, ramping up and only up. And quantity has a quality of its own as we continue to ramp up. Every tool of AI, of cyber, of space, EW, counter-UAS, you name it, we're employing it. Blinding, confusing, and deceiving our enemy. Because we know who the good guys are here. And the American people do too. And that makes my job simple. I serve God, the troops, the country, the Constitution, and the President of the United States, and answer only to those. All in service of victory on the battlefield and the military objectives that we've laid out from day one. Defeat the missiles, missile launchers, and defense industrial base, which I laid out today. Defeat the Navy and deny Iran the ability to have a nuclear weapon. Clear, decisive, achievable. And Admiral Cooper knows, the CENTCOM commander who we spent a couple of hours with last night, that in pursuit of those objectives, we have his back in every way.
Like I said,
his commanders know that, and so do the troops in harm's way. Admiral Cooper gets what he needs, the assets, the authorities, the munitions, you name it. We will stop at nothing to win. War is hell. War is chaos. And as we saw yesterday with the tragic crash of our KC-135 tanker, bad things can happen. American heroes, all of them. And as I have with all of them, as we have, we will greet those heroes at Dover, and their sacrifice will only recommit us to the resolve of this mission. But war, in this context and in pursuit of peace, is necessary, which is why each day on bended knee we continue to appeal to heaven, to Almighty God's providence, to watch over and give special skill and confidence to our leaders and to our warriors. To those warriors who this nation prays for every single day, I hear from all of you out there who pray for them every day. Stay on bended knee and pray for them. I continue to say to them, Godspeed, may the Lord bless you and keep going. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today. Before I start with an update, I also want to address the tragic loss of our KC-135 refueling aircraft yesterday. The incident occurred over friendly territory in western Iraq while the crew was on a combat mission, and again, was not the result, as CENTCOM has said, was not the result of hostile or friendly fire. We're still treating this as an active rescue and...
They pretty much said a lot of these down, fuck, I can't think right now. pretty much all the U.S. aircraft carriers or whatever, not aircraft carrier, the U.S. airbornes that have been down recently, they've always used the rhetoric that it was friendly fire or they were down for some technical reason, whatever. And they've always denied that it was Iran that shot down some of these air offenses. I'll call them that. Like some of these fighter jets, these support helicopters or whatever that recently got taken down. So they're always going to deny some of this stuff right now because it's for political reasons and just to stoke the stoke the pride and just keep the image that the U.S. troops are not being shot down out of the skies by the Iranian government. It's by friendly fire at first, or it's just by technical difficulties on our end. They're just going to deny it, even if it could be true that the Iranians are shooting Americans from out of the sky, and it's killing American troops, which is a tragic incident that just happened the other day with Dan Kane just mentioned that these troops died because I believe it was a support helicopter got shot down over Iraq. And it's led to, like, I think 5 troops have died, which I think that makes like 13 now in total. It's the number of troops that are dying in the Middle East are only going to grow day by day right now. So, but they're going to use rhetoric and talking points like, oh, it's not really the Iranian regime doing that. It was friendly fire or it's technical difficulties. Yeah, whatever.
Recovery operation. As CENTCOM announced this morning, 4 airmen have been recovered, and the Air Force and U.S. Central Command will provide updates as information becomes available. Please keep these brave airmen, their families, friends, and units in your thoughts in the coming hours and days. Our service members make an incredible sacrifice to go forward and do the things that the nation asks of them. It's a reminder of the true cost of the dedication and commitment of the Joint Force. We're also aware of a fire on board the USS Gerald R. Ford. We're thinking about the crew there who are injured in the fire. We believe and hope that everyone will be okay, and we're grateful for that. And for any further questions on that, we'd refer you to NAVCENT or to the Navy. This morning, we enter the 13th day of Operation Epic Fury, and we continue to make progress towards our military objectives. As the Secretary said, today will be our heaviest day of kinetic fires across the operating area. CENTCOM continues to attack ballistic missile and drone capabilities so that they are no longer a threat to U.S. forces, our bases, or our partners. They're continuing to destroy the Iranian Navy to ensure freedom of navigation, and this means going after Iran's mine laying capability and destroying their ability to attack commercial vessels. And we're targeting their defense industrial base so they cannot rebuild the capabilities that can harm America's interests or our partners in the future. As Admiral Cooper said in his update on Wednesday, Iranian combat power continues to decline as a result of the continued strikes, as the Secretary talked about. We've attacked over 6,000 targets, and our strike packages continue to launch every hour, and we've maintained an unprecedented number of sorties up overhead of Iran. CENTCOM is now persistently over the enemy, and as a result, we've seen a reduction in missile and one-way attack fires, as the Secretary said. In less than 2 weeks, we've rendered the Iranian Navy combat ineffective and continue to attack naval vessels, including all of their Soleimani-class.
Again, they don't really have a good Navy in the first place, so I don't think Iran's really caring too much about that.
Warships, which were armed with anti-ship missiles and anti-aircraft weapons. We've made progress, but Iran still has the capability to harm friendly forces and commercial shipping, and our work on this effort continues. But I want to make something clear. The only thing preventing commercial traffic and flow through the straits right now, which there is some through the straits, is Iran. They are the belligerents here holding the straits closed, although there is some traffic moving through there. We've made it a priority to target Iran's mine-laying enterprise, their mine layers, the naval bases and depots, in addition to the missiles that could influence the straits, and CENTCOM continues to attack those efforts. And we continue to make progress on the industrial base to include factories, weapons, warehouses that are stored in, and we will continue to do so in the coming days, especially today. Now, as I often do, I want to share a little bit about our incredible joint force. Today, I'm going to talk about our incredible artillery force comprised of American soldiers and Marines who've been sinking ships, destroying depots, and launching Army tactical missile systems, or ATACMS, precision strike missiles, or PRISMs, and high-mobility rocket systems, or HIMARS. From outside Iran, our Army and Marine artillerymen are hitting sites that Iran relies on to project power beyond their borders and protect our deployed. In just the first 13 days of this operation, our artillery forces have made history. They fired the first precision strike missiles ever used in combat, reaching deep into enemy territory. They've used Army ATACMS to sink multiple ships, including a submarine, and they've done all of this with the precision and determination that comes from relentless training and trust in each other and in their weapon systems. Yesterday, I had the incredible honor and privilege of speaking with some of our young soldiers from the 3rd Battalion, 27th Field Artillery Regiment out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the unit and the crew that fired the first precision strike missiles. The soldiers I met came from all over this great country, New York, Texas, Delaware, California. One had been in the Army only 6 months and been in the unit for 2 months and was already deployed. He was the youngest at 20, but you would not know it from the way that they talked about their mission. The others were 22 and 28 years old. They spoke with a sense of calm pride, purpose, and clarity that tells you clearly they understand the weight of what they're doing and the people who depend on them. I asked them to walk me through a fire mission. I asked not just what they do, but what they feel, especially those first crew members on this particular mission. These soldiers basically live in these vehicles behind us. The cab, very tight, 2 folks sit next to each other with the crew commander behind them. It's jammed inside there with their personal weapons and kit, and they sit and wait for a fire mission. And when that fire mission comes, they close the armored doors and begin to program the systems. They then throw 3 simple toggle switches, and 10 to 15 feet behind them, a rocket motor ignites, and the round is headed downrange to do the nation's work. I asked these youngsters, these young, awesome Americans, what does that feel like? And one of them just looked at me and said, it's awesome. No drama, no hesitation, in the middle of the day, in the middle of the night, in the sun, the rain, in the snow, flawless execution. Their Marine counterparts are out there doing the same thing every night. Same work, same pressure, same expectations, same results. And we hand tremendous and enormous responsibility to these young Americans, and they carry it with a level of maturity, grit, professionalism, and tenacity that makes me incredibly proud to be a part of their joint force. Their parents and families would and should be incredibly proud, and their leaders and I trust them to do the deeds that they must do in difficult circumstances every single time. I also want to touch today I want to touch for a moment today on their leadership. These young Americans are led by extraordinary young leaders out at the tactical edge. Yesterday, the battery commander and her NCO were there with this crew on the same video screen. The 2 of them hardly said a word. They didn't have to. In their eyes, and in particular, the commander's eyes, you could see the quiet trust and confidence she had in these soldiers and the rest of their battery. It came through loud and clear, and we appreciate their leadership. When I asked these soldiers yesterday, what is it that you need from the secretary and I, they looked at each other, paused for a moment, and looked back at me and said, more rounds, sir. It was awesome. So thank you to those soldiers and Marines out on the firing line supporting our mission, and thank you to their families. Our joint force will continue today to deliver dynamic.
The fact that these soldiers are put in this predicament anyways in the first place is kind of already sad right now. I don't think none of these people sign up to go to a war that really just is not really in our best interest, and quite frankly doesn't really at all really has anything to do with us. Because the talking points about Iran is the leading sponsor of terrorism right now, especially when it comes to the funding of its proxy groups, who only purpose is just to go after Israel. Quite frankly, let's just be completely honest, they're not created for any other purpose besides just to go after Israel because of their occupation of the Palestinians. So they're not really in there. So this whole war is a meaningless war in itself. This is not a war that's in the best interest of the American people and the American government. This is just more of like the Jews get what they want type of situation. So that's just pretty much what it is. Like, many people think this is a war about a war on terror, a war. We're trying to stop Iran from building a nuclear weapon. We're bringing democracy to the Iranian people. None of that stuff is even remotely true. None of it's true. So.
Fires against the enemy from the land, sea, and air. We remain deeply grateful for their service. And for the 3rd time today, I'll mention that today will be our busiest day. This mission remains complex, dangerous, and difficult, and every service member has a family waiting for them to return home. And I want to thank all of the families today who are supporting their deployed forces and those doing the work here in the States. On a personal note today, I also want to thank the Joint Staff and the team that I have the pleasure of working with, some of them right here in this room. They are working 24 hours a day to deliver the options that we must to the Secretary and to the President. Today, as I close, I ask that we remember our fallen and those participating in the recovery operations to bring home our lost KC-135 crew, that we keep those service members and their families in their thoughts and prayers. Those are very, very, very tough days when that knock comes on the door for people on both sides of the door. Again, thank you to our deployed, thank you to our fallen and to their families and to the Joint Force. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, sir.
Alexandra Ingersoll, One America News. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Strait of Hormuz and when it might be fully operational again? And how do we ensure our objective of denying Iran a nuclear weapon if they continue to align with our adversaries?
So I'll take it and chime in, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like at all. I want to emphasize what the chairman said about that. The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that. Now, there's a reason why we chose, as one of our primary objectives, destroy the Navy. We understood the ability to interdict shipping is something Iran has done for 40 years. It's key terrain. They've used it as leverage. The world is seeing what they'll do to fight back in that context. And so we've heard them talk about taking various measures, and we're planning for all of them. So we have a plan for every option here. We're working with our interagency partners, and that's not a strait we're going to allow to remain contested or with a lack of flow of commercial goods. So we're aware of that. We're laser focused on our military objectives, but also want to make sure our partners across this government understand we're working with you to make sure that energy flows, and that's an important part. And the second question was on the nuclear capability. As we said from the beginning, their strategy shifted just from defense of their nuclear facilities to a conventional umbrella of so many missiles that no one would challenge their ability to the opportunity to defeat their nuclear capabilities. And it was growing by the day. So with Iran at its weakest moment, going at that ballistic missile capability creates an opportunity to ensure at any point in time that.
Well, let's be real right now. The rhetoric never changed from them about their nuclear program because they've always said that they have a right to nuclear enrich. The reason why they enriched to like 60% was basically like a bargaining chip to be able to lead to negotiations for sanction relief. That's kind of the point about them wanting to get the sanction. That's the point of them wanting to enrich at that higher degree, not for the purpose of a bomb, because like they have a fatwa, which is basically kind of like a religious disavowalment from ever creating a nuclear bomb because it goes against Islam. So the purpose of them enriching to that high degree, even under a fatwa, was because they wanted to negotiate with the U.S. about the ending, or better yet, the loosen of all these harsh, crippling sanctions that were put in place by Donald Trump himself during his first admission and were left in place even after he left office for a 4-year period under Joseph Biden. Then when he came back, he's just pretty much like to continue where he left off from, even continuing to talk a point that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, even though they've persistently just keep saying they're not even building one. So
Iran give up their nuclear capabilities, or if need be, you prevent them from doing it, as the president has done once already with Operation Midnight Hammer, obliterating those capabilities. So the conventional side is a huge part at getting at denying nuclear capabilities, if you have anything you want to add.
I appreciate the question. I'm not going to comment on what we may or may not be thinking about any options that the Joint Force could be tasked to do in the future, whether it's on the nuke matter or anything else. Thank you.
But we have options.
The mines that are in the Strait of Hormuz and our ability to, obliterate them.
We retain a range of options to solve a whole variety of problems, and that is one set of options that we have, that we hold on to. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Exeth. I'm Mary Martin with Daily Wire. Thank you both for the update. ABC News has updated its story from
Daily
yesterday,
Wire,
clarifying that the FBI report on Iran possibly striking California was unverified. I just want to ask you,
she has a
what
cross
impact did that
on. That's
original reporting
crazy.
have on the
Is she
public,
working
and
for
does Iran even have the
the
ability
Daily
to conduct
Wire?
such a strike? And then just really quickly on another note, what role did Vice President Vance play in counseling the president on this conflict? Can you speak to some of the media reporting suggesting that there is a division there?
That reporting on California obviously had no impact on us. Also, we're used to bad reporting. We're used to ill-informed reporting. And so it doesn't change how we operate, but we engage with it to prove that it's not true, as CENTCOM has done so well. Ultimately, I look at the reports on a daily basis of threat. Our interagencies all over it. My partners across government are all over, looking for indications and warnings, keeping the American people safe. There's a lot of things Iran has said it can do for a long time, thankfully, including engaging their proxies and getting them involved in the fight, which they haven't been able to do. So we're watching that very closely. And as far as the vice president, he's an incredible leader of this team as well, alongside the president and Secretary of State. I can't say enough great stuff about this team, how it works together, how it provides options to the president, and the vice president every single day is a key voice in that, an indispensable voice in that, actually. In the middle there, red tie. Yes.
Michael Gordon, Wall Street Journal. Iran is thought to have 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium in at least 2 locations and several thousand kilograms of lower purity material. Can you conclude this mission successfully without physically taking control of that material, or are you counting on diplomatic negotiations to provide some measure of control leading to its removal? You've mentioned missiles, you've mentioned drones, military industry. You haven't stipulated that taking care of that material is a mission priority.
We've said from the beginning, deny Iran nuclear weapons as a core mission. We retain options across the spectrum to ensure that they never do. And President Trump has said that. And that's why this mission actually couldn't have been possible without Midnight Hammer, without what those B-2s did going across and obliterating those facilities. That set the condition for the opportunity to do what we're doing now. So the president's kept his eye focused on nuclear capabilities. And I will say we have a range of options, up to and including Iran deciding that they will give those up, which of course we would welcome. They weren't willing to do in negotiations. I would never tell this group or the world what we're willing to do or how far we're willing to go, but we have options for sure. Right next to him.
Me?
No, right there.
Right here, sir? Right here? I'll take it. Right here?
Right there. Yep. No, you. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Can you please provide some guidance? It's been 13 days in. Can you please provide some guidance, both of you, about the strike on the girls' school? There's been reporting that indicates that preliminary inquiry, even though.
Yeah, so we did strike that girls' school, but of course, HECSEF's talking points now are we are investigating. Really, it's not just HECSEF. Almost the entire administration now is just leading with this talking point that, you know, we're still investigating. But it's clear as day that they did bomb the girls' school. It's just they just can't overtly say it, or as Trump says, he doesn't really know who bombed the girls' school. He just says that, well, Iran has Tomahawks too. I'm not entirely sure. I don't really know. That's Trump's words, not mine. He's not sure exactly who bombed the girls' school, but I mean, everyone in his administration, including HECSEF, has said that, yeah, we probably did bomb that school. And at first, maybe I might have thought that maybe there was an IRGC member there, probably stationed there, or say he was picking up his daughter from school, whatever. Still, we still bombed the school, which we killed like over 100 plus people. Little girls, most of them little girls. Insane to me. I know it's insane. We've killed over 100 people. If you're watching on Rumble too, by the way, make sure you open up a tab and watch it on YouTube too as well. And make sure you like the video too. Make sure you like the video on Rumble and make sure you like the video on YouTube. Let's try to push my stream up in the algorithm a little bit, because like I can't sponsor it on Google Ads because this is politics and it's very divisive. And because I'm more of a right leaning when it comes to my political views, I'm definitely not going to get sponsored on Google Ads. So make sure you like the video on both platforms. Let's push it up in the algorithm.
It's ongoing, has determined that the airstrike was carried out by the United States. Given that there is another competing narrative that this was done intentionally, can you provide us with some guidance about whether this was the case? Secondly, we are also getting, we had heard yesterday from Energy Secretary Wright that said that the U.S. Navy would not be ready until the end of the month to provide escorts through the Strait of Hormuz. Is that an accurate assessment? And if so, can you tell us why? Thank you.
Well, with an issue on your first topic, an issue of such seriousness, we're not going to let reporting lead us or force our hand into indicating what happened in a particular situation, because the truth matters. So I can report that CENTCOM has designated an investigating officer to complete a command investigation. The command investigation will take as long as necessary to address all the matters surrounding this incident. And the investigating officer is from outside CENTCOM and is a general officer. But I will note to this group and to the world, there's only one entity in this conflict between us and Iran that never targets civilians. Literally never target civilians. I look at the process that's used on dynamic strikes or on boat strikes and others. We have a very high fidelity process in that case. So we don't target. Iran does. We will investigate, and we'll get to the truth, and we'll share it when we have it.
Sorry.
Absolutely. And what was the second?
Strait of Hormuz, about the Navy.
It's a tactically complex environment. And before I think we want to take anything through there at scale, we want to make sure that we do the work pursuant to our current military objectives to do that safely and smartly. So we're continuing to develop.
And we do a lot of work.
Yeah.
And like I said, it is dynamic, but this is, I think, almost by 20% the largest day of strikes. And as I said, our intelligence just gets better and better. That feedback loop feeds itself. And as we refine those targets, it exponentially increases what we can hit and why, to include strategic things the world's talking about and looking at. And it's our job to have a plan for it, which we do, to address it, and ensure that the president has options. We've done that from the beginning in this department. He'll have options on that topic as well. Right here.
That's right, sir.
An investigation is an investigation. That's what it is. It doesn't mean anything other than that. Yes.
Brian Morgan with the Epic Times. Regarding today's busy day of strikes, last week you guys discussed the progress of the air campaign to gain air superiority and to transition from these standoff weapons launched at range to more overhead strikes. Can you now say that these strikes today are going to rely entirely on stand-in over-the-top weapons, or are standoff range weapons still in play?
It's a great question. I can say based on the report I read this morning at 0600, only 1% of the munitions we're using today are standoff munitions. The rest are over the top, the types of which we have a plethora, which was our goal from the beginning. You use standoff, which are more exquisite. You transition to a much larger magazine depth, ensuring that you're preserving all the capabilities you have and your options across the force. Absolutely.
Has Iran placed any mines since the war started? Is Iran placing new mines?
We've heard them talk about it just like you've reported recklessly and wildly about it, but we have no clear evidence. We have no clear evidence of that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Secretary, given everything the U.S. have accomplished in the last 24 hours, as of today, how do you define success in this military option? And has that definition changed from day one? And also regarding Iran government telling countries hosting U.S. American bases that they could face attacks, what is the Pentagon doing about that?
First question is, what is the objective?
How do you define success as of today?
Yeah, I mean, we define success. Again, 13 days in, by reaching the military objectives that we've laid out. Launchers, missile launchers, defense industrial base, their Navy, the ability to project.
So I want you guys to look at this right quick. So I went to Grok to go ahead and type this in for you right now. So what are the chances that the U.S. strike the girls' school in Iran? Answer only. So very high likely, probably, per multiple U.S. official sources and ongoing military investigation, U.S. investigators and preliminary findings from Reuters, AP, NYT, New York Times, Guardian, and others indicate U.S. forces almost certainly carried out the February 28, 2026 Tomahawk missile strike on the girls' school in Minab, Iran, due to outdated intelligence targeting data while aiming at an adjacent RGC compound base. Death toll reported 150, 175, mostly children. Official U.S. confirmation pending full probe, but evidence, missile type, time, and location points strongly to U.S. responsibility. So that answers that question about that.
Power in the naval sense, leading toward denying them to get a nuclear weapon. And we've got internal metrics that look at that we represent to the president, who then can decide how long he'd like to continue in pursuit of those military objectives. So that hasn't changed. There's a lot of things a lot of people talk about, what they want us to do or what we should do or what we should stay focused on. And again, I've addressed this before, and I think it's worth saying again, mission creep or expansive missions or prolonged timelines or democracy building or nation building, you name it, has not been part of what President Trump wants us to be involved in. We're solving for something here, this particular mission set, but also recognizing this country's conditioned to previous leaders, whether it's George W. Bush or Barack Obama or Joe Biden, who had these expansive nebulous mission sets that kept changing all the time. So the timeline kept moving and we kept pouring more troops in and on the ground. And then pretty soon everyone wonders, like I did in Afghanistan in 2012, what's our mission here? I'm not clear what it is. We're taking the opposite approach here and saying we've defined these objectives, we're pursuing those objectives. The president has his hand on the throttle and will decide ultimately when they've been reached that serve the purposes of the United States of America, American interests first.
Yeah, right here.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. Polls show over 80% of Republicans support the president's military action in Iran, but there's some consternation in parts of the party, particularly from your fellow Fox News alum Tucker Carlson. He called the war disgusting and evil. And
of course, that guy, that's the guy from Tim Pool.
Means foreign troops get to rape your wives and daughters. Have you heard these comments and what's your reaction to them?
This guy's Jewish
We're
too.
busy executing on behalf of great patriotic Americans with a clear mission that's 47 years overdue. We're going to execute on that regardless of what people say about it. Yeah, right here.
You have said that the U.S. military has essentially aerial superiority, naval superiority over Iran, yet we're not escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Why? How did you not plan for this?
We planned for it. We recognize it. Because ultimately we want to do it sequentially in a way that makes the most sense for what we want to achieve and ensure that we're sending the right signals to the world when we do so. So when Chris writes...
Yeah, it's not true, because Trump just recently said that, yeah, they are calling on other countries to also insist with trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz because they've military. I think he has acknowledged, even probably some of the military officials that have probably been advising him on this situation now, that it's not a good idea right now, and we can't just do it by ourselves to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It's just near, dear, and impossible to do so. So we need assistance in this matter.
We speak, it's based on a full assessment of what we're up against, what we want to say to the world, how we want them to see and understand the conflict. It's like this whole idea of the war widening. That's what the press wants to make it look like it's widening and chaos. And so, no, we're actually closing in on grabbing hold of and controlling what objectives we want to achieve and how we want to achieve them. It's called shaping operations and setting the conditions. But when you shape the environment, you don't always tell. I mean, foolish political leaders and foolish military leaders of the past will hang an exact deadline on it, or here's exactly when we'll do what we're going to do, or here's how long it's going to take us. And then if you meet that, maybe you meet it. But if you don't, you fail. And if you're far beyond, we know exactly what we're shaping.
Let's go over here right now and see what we're missing out right now. Okay, so we're hearing sirens right now in the distance. I wonder where that's from right now. All right. So we'll go back to that in a little while.
Why we're sending those signals working across the interagency. The Strait of Hormuz is something we've paid attention to from the beginning, and the American people can rest assured we will ensure that our interests are advanced, no doubt. Yeah, right there, green jacket.
Mike Brass with the Washington Examiner. How many American casualties have there been, and where were the American service members when they were injured?
I mean, it's a bunch of return to duty. So we've had the large majority have gone in for some medical treatment, return to duty. We've had in Kuwait, Jordan, down across the southern flank a little bit, a variety of places, most from one-way attack strikes.
But I would clarify that. I think what we tried to do here is clarify those numbers rather than saying KIA or WIA wounded. Be more clear about that because the overwhelming majority, almost 90%, thank God, are returned to duty. Minor injuries returned to duty, and so that number can look a certain way, and our job is to add some fidelity to it.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. David Sear, Real America's Voice. Can you share what types of munitions have been used on the attacks on commercial shipping? Have any hit mines, and are USVs, unmanned surface vehicles?
All right, I think we already got pretty much what we need out of that right now. Let's go. Temporary lift sanctions on Russian oil. This one's important right here. So this talks about the Russian oil, the lift on Russian oil sanctions right now, so that way countries are able to
coming into the newsroom.
Let me pause it right quick. So they're able to acquire Russian oil in the meantime while this operation or the war is still going on to better get prices under control right now.
Secretary Scott Bessent saying this on social media. The president is taking decisive steps to promote stability in global energy markets and working to keep prices low as we address the threat and instability posed by the terrorist Iranian regime. He continues, to increase the global reach of existing supply, the Treasury Department is providing a temporary authorization to permit countries to purchase Russian oil currently stranded at sea. This narrowly tailored short-term measure applies only to oil already in transit and will not provide significant financial benefit to the Russian government, which derives the majority of its energy revenue from taxes assessed at the point of extraction. President Trump's pro-energy policies have driven U.S. oil and gas production to record levels, contributing to lower fuel prices for hardworking Americans. The temporary increase in oil prices is a short-term and temporary disruption that will result in a massive benefit to our nation and economy in the long term. So, this just coming down, and we'll wait to see what more we learn about this plan from the White House. The White House, of course, is under pressure to calm the markets, the energy markets, but the tools at its disposal are limited. Ben Geeman, an energy reporter at Axios, standing by to discuss this with us. Ben, good timing having you on here tonight, just as this news is breaking. Help this, and let's just break this down for people that are watching at home. What steps has the Trump administration taken to limit the Russian government's exposure to making a profit off of energy? And really, what is this announcement from Bessent undoing tonight?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Good evening. So what this does is expands what had been a more limited waiver of sanctions on Russian oil that was applied only to Indian purchases. Now this has been brought into other countries as well. And what you're seeing here is the Treasury Department, I think, trying to do two things at once. One is bring out another tool in the toolkit to try and temper the market a little bit. There's no silver bullet. There's no single tool that's going to do this, but they're trying different things. At the same time, I think you saw the Treasury Secretary attempting to perhaps preempt some of the criticism of this move that we can expect, which is that these strikes and this campaign against Iran are essentially on some level a gift to Vladimir Putin and his efforts to fund the war on Ukraine. Now, one thing I would note about that statement from the Treasury Secretary about where the kind of money and revenue is derived by the Russian government, I would also note, however, that the sort of dividing line between private companies and what benefits the Russian government is a little bit perhaps blurry.
Bessent saying this just moments ago, and perhaps there's more that we'll learn about this tomorrow, and I'll be looking out for official word from Trump himself if reporters perhaps ask him about this. You've been writing a lot about how the conflict in the Middle East has been impacting oil prices. Of course, Americans have noticed this huge spike at the pump as of late. You're reporting, I've been reading it, it says the administration is looking at a temporary Jones Act waiver to move fuel more easily between U.S. ports. What is the Jones Act, and could it actually bring some relief to Americans?
The Jones Act is a century-old law, actually a little bit older, that basically says that if you're moving goods on water from one U.S. port to another U.S. port, you need to be doing it on U.S.-owned, built, flagged, and crewed vessels, right? And so this has long been a point of contention among economists and others who feel that it creates inefficiencies in the market, that there should be more of a sort of open playing field for other ships to move this fuel. By waiving the Jones Act temporarily, well, they haven't said whether they're going to do this yet. They said they're considering it. What this would theoretically enable is perhaps easier movement of petroleum products from the Gulf Coast, where prices are lower, to areas on the East Coast where they're higher. The sources I was talking to today were saying, look, this is perhaps something that could have a very minor effect on fuel prices, right? Perhaps put them a few cents lower than they would have otherwise been, even though this is still occurring in the context of this general rise. I think what this underscores is the fact that the administration has no single great solution to these rising or at least very, very high energy oil prices while the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed, right? We had the International Energy Agency coming out with a statement earlier today that this is the largest disruption in the history of the global oil market. Now, the International Energy Agency is a multilateral, multi-government institution. This is not a supermarket tabloid comment, if you will. They wouldn't say something like that lightly. So the scale of the disruption that we are seeing means that while the administration can try and pull some limited levers, which we've been discussing, to try and ease things a little bit, we are not going to see things go back to normal until the Strait of Hormuz, until maritime traffic is flowing through there again, and until things have a chance to sort of settle. One other thing I would add is that you've had a number of Gulf countries in the Persian Gulf that produce a lot of oil, like Kuwait and the UAE and others, who are having to sort of start to lower their actual production. Again, not just the exports of it on water, but the production itself, because places to store the oil are getting a little bit scarce. So this is a cascading series of disruptions that does not lend itself to any one answer. But again, you are seeing the White House trying to sort of take limited bites at the apple to make it perhaps not as bad as it would otherwise be.
Yeah, the White House is talking about, and this is again just another lever, another idea, but the U.S. is talking about tanker insurance, U.S.-backed tanker insurance to get ships moving despite the risk. What kind of insurance would be necessary to actually impact movements within the Strait?
Yeah, that's right. An organization called the International Development Finance Corporation, sometime in the last week, I think it was about a week ago, said that they're offering this $20 billion program to sort of create this U.S. backing, because insurance rates, as you can imagine, for tankers attempting or that might have otherwise wanted to go to this area have just gone through the roof. And so you're seeing that as an attempt to ease things. It's not really clear the extent to which the industry is going to take them up on this, because the physical risk remains incredibly high, and that's why you've also had the U.S. government float this idea. It has not happened yet, but float this idea of having some type of military, naval escorts for tankers going through the strait. But while Iran's capacity has been certainly diminished, it can still wreak an incredible amount of havoc, as we've been seeing just through some attacks in recent days on tankers. And so, again, I think while this conflict lasts, you might see efforts to get some limited traffic going, or there's already a little bit, but have it go up a little bit beyond what it is right now. But while the hostilities remain, while this remains a hot war, the oil market is going to be incredibly convulsed, and there is no easy answer to that.
Yeah, how much momentum is there for naval protection in the Strait?
I think if we were to see this, it would be sort of a multi-government effort. You've had some other governments talking about this as well. So the problem is it just takes a lot of time, and it's quite dangerous. So I candidly don't know. I'm a little bit skeptical that we would see widespread uptake of this, but I think it could perhaps provide at least a little bit of limited protection, and consequently a limited increase in the number of tankers moving through the area.
The time in the nation's capital approaching 9:45. Final question for you. If this conflict lasts weeks, and again, that's an if at this point, but Ben, if it does last weeks, what type of energy market could we be looking at in weeks?
Yeah, it's very difficult to know, because, again, we would have to see the efficacy of some of these efforts to kind of ease things a little bit, even while the conflict is remaining. But right now, Brent crude oil, which is sort of the international benchmark, is trading at, I think the last time I checked before I came on, roughly around $100, right at that $100 mark. I think certainly, the $120, which is what it flew up to a few days ago, but then quickly came back down, would it certainly approach that, which is the level that we saw shortly after, in the weeks after Russia invaded Ukraine? I think that is possible. Could it touch the $147 limit, kind of cap that we saw right before the financial crisis? This is, getting on 20 years ago. I think it was in 2007 or 2008 where we saw those levels. Sure. I mean, many things are in play. I mean, look, analysts, others get a lot of headlines by saying oil could go to $150, oil could go to $200. Some of that can be a little bit hyperbolic, but we are in absolutely uncharted territory here. So I would be hesitant to say that nothing is off the table.
Ben Gaiman reports on energy for Politico. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, time for us to hit a quick commercial break. A live look at the Capitol on this Thursday evening. Alon Burstein joining me in a moment. We're showing him your questions about the Middle East in a moment.
All right. So what I'm going to do for you guys right now is I'm going to end it right here, so I can get some sleep for a couple hours. I'm kind of a little bit tired. We're going to come back, finish off our coverage of the Middle East. Let me close up some of these tabs right now. We're going to talk about the emergency reserve, the emergency oil reserves for 32 nations that are forced to use their reserved oil reserves because of the war right now. We're going to talk about that. I'll say that for the next coverage right now. We're going to go more in detail about Trump's FCC chair, who threatens all of the news outlets who are negatively covering the war, to where it seems like the Trump administration is not winning this war at all. So we're going to talk more about that. And we're going to also speak about Tucker Carlson. Yep, the minute video's on like 5 minutes, but we're gonna say that one for next one. I'll say that one for, we're gonna probably come back on tomorrow and finish our coverage of this. I'm gonna hop back on tomorrow so I can give you guys a longer stream. Right now, I'll make this like a shorter stream right now, but we're gonna come back on and finish covering the Middle East tomorrow. And then, obviously speaking, we're going to have more coverage of the war as days go on, depending on how long this war goes on for, where we're going to be here covering almost every day, talking about it almost every day, because right now, this war seems like it's not going to stop anytime soon. So I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to finish up the coverage. We're going to finish up some of the things that I want to talk about today, and then we're going to talk about what's coming next, and then we're going to constantly keep covering the war as the weeks go on. Days go on, weeks, however long this war is going to take. We're going to be here every day until Night in America Covenant. So I'll see you guys back tomorrow. Peace.